Welcome back to Beach Chair Chats. I'm Brian Kaiser here on a perfect May day. Is it almost Mother's Day, I think, and I have a great guest as well. Elyse Salpeter, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Is it Mother's Day this weekend?
It is.
I mean, you know this, right? Because you're a mom, so you know it's Mother's Day.
I do.
Do you have expectations as a mom for Mother's Day?
People might laugh, but my family wanted to take me out to eat, but I'm cooking. I decided I wanted a seafood tower, so I'm going to build it myself.
You said, well,
And we're
as you
just
know,
gonna
why give up the role as a mom for one day and just make the food for everybody to enjoy?
let's make the food. But
But
I'm
it's
gonna have
yours.
everything I want, which is good.
Well, that's the important part. As long as you can have the food that you want and you cook it so you know it's going to go well, and that's the important thing. So, exciting things for Mother's Day. Now, talk a little about you. You are an author. I know this already, but I'm going to play dumb. What are you working on right now?
So I actually just two things. I actually finished a straight thriller
Thrill.
that right now is being queried to agents. And I'm excited that, it's getting a read from one of them right now, which is really exciting. And then I'm also working on a fantasy novel right now where I actually had written this many years ago. It was one of the first books that I ever published, and I just went back in and I have redone the whole thing, redone the ending, changed the
Hmm.
title, and I am getting very close to being complete on it. We've already had a couple of rounds with my editor. There's a book two in the series, so I already read through that. So that'll
What
be pretty
ins
exciting to get that back out.
so what inspired the change? Like you said, you had it, you brought it back out. Is this kind of like a
Yeah,
redo of an album? Like if you're in music and like, I want to do this album again, and we're going to redo it.
definitely. I've become a much better writer as the years have gone on. I've been actually publishing and writing for well over 20 years. And when this was one of the first books that I ever published, and this is before I even really understood about beta readers and editors
Hmm.
and anything about that. So when I published the book, while the stories really sound, now many years later, when I go back and read it, it's like, ooh, this really could use some structure.
Yeah.
It could have a couple of things that had some plot holes,
Mm.
just things that I wouldn't have really understood. And now that I'm a little bit more seasoned and have some really amazing editors that I work with, they went ahead and actually reread it for me and said, let's work on this. So that's why I decided to reboot it. And also the covers are just awful.
Yeah,
So
you mentioned
they
that.
needed to
Yes.
be, fixed.
Now, a quick question. So, you know, 20 years of writing and you go back to reread with your original print, story, even if as you've evolved as a author and a writer, do you see that evolution of yourself? Like, I gotta fix this. Maybe the story was this at one point and now I'm here. I'm different now. My writing's different. Do you see that coming out in the actual pages and the editing?
100%. I have a horror novel I wrote called The Mannequins that actually is sitting with an entertainment agent right now who's trying to actually push it to the networks, which is very exciting. But it
Cool.
was also one of my earlier books. And I've reread it so that I can be very fresh about it. And I look at it and I'm like, ah, what I would have changed had
Hmm.
this been now. So when I look at, maybe the last couple of books that I've published, I think there's some of my strongest work. So there's definitely, I see an evolution, for me as I've gotten better.
So what inspires this stuff, right? What inspires the thriller, the sci-fi? Is it just like an imagination that comes into? Is it like a personal, real life thing? Is it what inspires this writing?
Well, I think you know a little bit about me. I'm sort of like this girl that needs to do a thousand things. And
Thousand
I
things?
guess
Is it
I,
more than 1,000? I think you might do a thousand
it
things by
might.
10 a.m. Okay.
I know, I know. Um, I don't know if I'm allowed to, say the word badass on this or anything
You
like
can
that,
say
but I
whatever you want. Badass is
kind of
totally
want to
acceptable.
be one. Like when I was younger, I was like, oh, maybe I can be a Navy SEAL. Maybe I
Ooh.
can like be the first girl in this like crazy thing. So when I write these thrillers, a lot of times I try to make female characters. I try to put them into like these vulnerable positions, but they're so strong and so
Hmm.
capable and so smart that they can get out of it. So I really like having um, just this like female vigilante or really strong characters that can kind of drive the story and kind of they're like superhuman version, superhuman versions of me.
That's what I was
Um,
gonna say. Now, is this you, right? In the book, you're superhuman, you're badass, you do all these things, you're fighting the vigilante, all these things. You see yourself. It's like actually there's a show I'm watching on HBO called The Rooster.
Mhm.
Have you heard of it with Steve Carell? He's like an
Haven't.
author, and he's like and they have him teach at a university, and he's not a professor. He has like these like page turner beach move books called The Rooster, and it's this guy. His name is Mr. Russo, and the students picked up on him, and they kind of characterize him as his the character in his stories in the actual show. It's quite fun to watch. It's very light. It's made by the directors of Shrinking. So if you've seen Shrinking, it's the same concept. So I was just wondering, do authors typically do this? They put themselves in the book and make yourself even more badass in the
I
books.
only in I would say two novels have I kind of mirrored I have this supernatural kind of Buddhist thriller series. It's like a six-book series. I call it the Kelsey Porter series.
Yes.
And that main character, she's only 22, so she's a lot younger than I am, but I kind of modeled her a little bit on maybe an aspirational thing of how I would
Mm.
be. And then also in a thriller I have called Nowhere to Run. Um, Rachel is one of the main characters, and that's another one. In the other books, not so much, but in those two, when I was writing this kind of female character, I mirrored a little bit of me, but then you know, these girls are insanely capable, so I
Oh,
just
so
kind of went off from there.
you are insanely capable because there's lots of things that you've done even outside of being an author, because that is no small feat. I can't write to save my life. And if I had to, it'd be the worst story. I always have ideas. I just do stories through this way. I don't actually write stuff down, but
This is
just,
amazing. I don't think I could do this, so don't sell yourself short.
well, the joke was in my broadcasting major for one semester in college because they said it makes no money and it's highly competitive. And I think they told me, and I made this joke on one of the other episodes, I have a face to radio. And I didn't know my age of 18 to 19, 20. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. But knowing that's an insult today. It's like, gee, who said that? Anyways, but you've done some awesome things even outside of being an author. You're like a badass triathlete.
I do try. I do
Mhm.
try. I will say I started doing triathlons about goodness, about 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And I hadn't even really been in a pool too much. I didn't really even know how to swim that well. And I joined this really amazing gym and I started taking lessons. And then I remember telling my husband one day, I think I'm going to become a triathlete. And he just kind of was like, what are you talking about? And I went out and bought a bike. And I joined a bike club. And then I joined this gym and
Mhm.
I started swimming. And then I started running more. And, fast forward like 6 years later, have a group of friends that are all my age and are just
Mhm.
kick-ass triathletes. They're winning races. So I'm like lucky I'm surviving them, but I ended up doing my first half Ironman and
Nice.
I completed it. And, to me, that was my way of being like this super strong
Hmm.
chick who can do stuff. So now I'm just kind of doing a bunch of sprints this year. But I think it's really fun to like get in the water and put a wetsuit on and kind of
Hmm.
feel a little superhuman for a while.
Well, I would probably not survive. I can't swim. Well, I could swim if I had to. Like if I was sitting
Right.
on the cruise ship and the hantavirus in the middle of nowhere, I would be jumping off and finding a way to get off that boat. But it's no small feat. Half Ironman, Olympic tries, sprint tries. They're not easy, especially the transitions between one. What do you call them? The
Transition from one event to the next or one
bingo.
discipline to the next.
See, I never
It's
did one.
funny.
Yeah.
I end up, I'll tell you something that I'll do that I thought was kind of funny. When I am sometimes training on my own, I play this little game with myself if I
Mhm.
feel like I'm going way too slow. And I always, and this is where my supernatural or fantastical kind of mind goes. I think, what if I was in a zombie apocalypse? And so I say to myself, okay, I live in Long Island. Right
Mhm.
now, I can bike if there was, a whole apocalypse, cars weren't working, and I had to get all the way down to the Freedom Tower to go get
Hmm.
medication for my kid. I know I can bike right now, get down to the East
Yes.
River. I can swim across and I can run the 3 miles down and make it back and probably do the whole thing in like 4 hours.
You'd swim the
So
East
I
River though?
always,
Oh.
I just kind of, think of things like that. What gets me going? I have to survive something.
If you had to face any worst case scenario,
Yeah.
you're ready for it. Now let me ask you this stuff too with the triathlons. Do you have any kind of books inspired by a badass triathlete in a zombie apocalypse? Are we talking about a future book right here? Is it here? Is
I
this
That's
brainstorming?
funny that you say that. I will say that a lot of the my main characters are super super strong that way. Like they're very athletic and they're very capable of doing things. So like in the supernatural thriller that I published last year, Nowhere to Run, she's a runner in that book, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the really important things that happen are that she's been able to survive is because of how she's in shape. Kelsey Porter in the Kelsey Porter series is the same way. She's actually one of these people that is actually used to go on these survival type of
Mm-hmm.
things, even as a kid, as a teenager. And that's how she learned how to survive and be able to, to withstand a lot of things that she's going on. And she's in martial arts. And,
Mm-hmm.
so I really soup up my characters to be really capable in some of these novels.
Now, do you make some of the other protagonists, is that the right term? Like weaker and like it's based on
Yes.
other people in life. Like, yeah, that person's totally a character in the book, and you waylay to
It's funny
them.
that you say that. I don't, I actually, I wish I could tell you I write about people
Hmm.
that I know. I really don't.
Yeah.
I usually I just sometimes will get an idea for a novel, and it can be from a dream, it can be
Hmm.
from looking at something. And, I'm not one of those people that sits down every day and then just writes something new. I know there are people that can do that, can churn
Yeah.
things out. I've never been that way. I have to kind of have this kind of desire and this feeling that just comes to me. And then once I get it,
Hmm.
I'm like straight, let me go right for the next 4 months. But, it's hard for me to do that because I have a full-time job and all these
Yeah.
other things. So it really kind of gets in the way of sitting down every morning and writing
Hmm.
for hours.
I can't even write emails every day. I mean, let alone write a novel. I mean, I look at my emails. I'm like, I have to write you back. I don't even want to do that. Give me a couple of days. So let me ask you this. Is there a genre that you have never written before? Like you've thrillers, sci-fi, paranormal, scary stuff.
Yeah,
Any beach turning rom-coms in the
no,
future?
I have
No?
romantasy. I honestly, or one of these, Oprah Winfrey, literary,
Hmm.
book club things. I just don't write that way. I don't write with that kind of gorgeous literary arc where you start a book and it's just exposition for like pages on end. I like go right into the action. I did try a couple of times to do that, and invariably on, page 20, a
Hmm.
superpower comes in or something crazy. Um, but I would love to kind of try or understand how to do maybe a romance. That's been
Hmm.
actually a little bit of a problem people have told me is because since I write so much cross genre, I don't really stick with one genre to build like an entire base of fans in just that. So I might get one for one category, and then it's really hard for them to jump to all my other books because they might not like fantasy or science fiction. I have a
Yeah.
science fiction short story collection or horror.
I mean, you
So
could do
it
it for
does make it hard,
Kelsey Porter could find love. I mean, it could, who knows? She could do a spin-off and all of a sudden she's got a family, a white picket fence, and she's
right?
settled down, right?
Right?
And then she has an identity crisis because it's not what she wanted for her life. And then she's like, and now I'm
Right.
mad. And she kills the husband. Now it's a Lifetime
Oh my God,
movie. It's spinning, right?
it could
Um,
spin.
if you now you said you had one that's possibly gonna go network, like film,
So I
or
have, I'm constantly, I self-published the majority of my novels. Really
mm,
early in my career, I had a couple of publishing houses I was working with, but invariably, a lot of them have folded over the years.
mhm,
And so I've self-published, but there are times that I will still try to pitch the books to agents to see if it can go traditional. So right now, I have my horror novel is with an agent who is pitching it to like the Hulus of the world or the
Hmm.
networks or different publishers or ones that are going to be doing either film or it could be a series. So he's working on that right now. There have been times I've pitched the Kelsey Porter series, like I once pitched it to Warner Brothers, and
Hmm.
I've had opportunities, but it's such a hard thing to get picked up, and definitely hard if you're a self-published author. You either have to sell like the 50 Shades of Grey thing, like
Yes.
50,000, 100,000 books for somebody to look at you. So it makes it a little bit more challenging.
You should make a spin-off of the 50 Shades of Grey and make it a horror movie. Way
That's
gone wrong.
Twilight. That was
Twilight.
what Twilight was
Was it Twilight?
technically.
See, I've never, I mean, I
Yeah.
have not, I know of it. I made it a goal in 2026 to read more. I'll admit it. It just, I work in academia. I look at academic stuff. It gets, it's academic. It's not fun, or even term not sexy. It's just the same thing. And I just would get so tired that I would sit down like, I don't want to read. I just want to binge watch TV. And it's like, I want to do more. I want to read more. So I have been made it a priority to read more books. But now I took on this podcast. I'm like, damn it, my reading's gone down. So I need to find time to read. So I'm reading the Project Hail Mary. I have not seen the movie yet, but I'm starting to read it. And it's part of the deal.
It's funny when I do book events, I have a lot of times people will come by my booth and they'll look at all the books and they look interested. And I always let people look and then I'll be like, well, what do you like to read? And they're like, I just don't read,
Hmm.
And I'm like, it always makes me so sad. But then I talk to them about it. I'm like, what is it that that makes you not read? And they're like, I don't have the attention span. I'm
Hmm.
just so fractured in my life. And so I always tell these people, that's fine. I do one of two things. I recommend a short story collection because then you don't have
Hmm.
to have ownership of having to get through a whole novel. Or do what I do sometimes because there are times I even need to read more. And I say to myself, I'm just going to read a couple of pages at night. I don't even have to get through the chapter. I
Hmm.
have my bookmark, I read a couple of pages, I see a break, I stop. And then I just go back. And if I even just say to myself 10 minutes a day, guess what? It might take me a month to finish the book, but
Yeah,
I've read a book.
I do the same thing. I mean, it's like 20 minutes, maybe 20 or 20 pages. I'll go through 20 pages and then I'll stop because I know I got lots of other stuff to do, but at least take the time because
Yeah.
reading's good. I think many people do audiobooks, which are fine. I know they do audiobooks just to have the story, and there's nothing wrong with those. I think they're great. In fact, I used to run to audiobooks. Fun story. I was actually running to Obama's book. Great book, not the most pumped up, to get you going on a run, but I love him. Obama's great, but it's not a.
Yeah.
I don't know, let's get me moving on this. I was
I
listening to
love
Born.
them.
I was listening
Yeah,
to
I love
Born.
audiobooks. I do a lot of for my job. Sometimes I have to drive up to Boston or I have to drive down to Princeton. So, going through New York can take you
Mhm.
hours. So I've been listening to a lot of Stephen King audiobooks.
All right.
Um, I have some authors also that I love. I love Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. I could re-listen to any of their books a million times. And it really, for me, it allows you to just kind of listen to a book maybe that you haven't gotten through
Hmm.
or been able to sit down because you're kind of a captured audience in the car.
Pretty much. Now you have a podcast to listen to, which is even better.
Yeah.
Stephen King. There's actually a funny story. There is a funeral home in Mystic that is owned by a guy named Stephen King, not the actual author, but it's just
Okay.
ironic that a funeral home is named after Stephen King of all things. It's
It
like
is funny.
kind of creepy. But Stephen King, that was some of the first horror that I read as a kid. I remember The Dark Half was
Yeah.
my first book. Then I read Misery, then It.
Mm.
And I will
Oh,
say this, I will not do the voice of Pennywise, but I have it down packed
oh my
that
God.
if I want to scare the living shit out of people, I will totally do that. My son hates it. It could be the dark, and I'll just walk in and I'll just drop the voice and just terrify
Right.
people. That's
That's
one thing that
funny.
I do. You can write, I can do voiceovers and call it good. Now, let me ask you this. Triathlon world, author world, have you ever been inspired like you're on a run or you're on a bike or you're in the water?
It's funny that said I actually I would love to say yes, but I find working out sometimes so challenging that I'm honestly just surviving.
Hmm.
What I tend to do is I make playlists for myself and I just blast them. Now, I will say this. I do fanfic in my head. I don't know if people know what fanficking is, but
I do not know that. No.
I have a little scenario that I am a sort of Kelsey Porter character. I
Hmm.
have this entire other story that has never been put to paper. But when I'm running or I'm doing something really challenging, I am that character living this particular like life.
It's
And
like the show I told you about, the rooster. Same thing.
yeah. And
Lives that
so in
story. Yeah.
that one, she's like, I made a joke about being a Navy SEAL, but she is like this one only female in this one. I call it Team Seven. I don't even know if that's a real thing. I've made up this
There
governmental secret thing that she's part of. And so whenever I'm doing something, I kind of maybe will put myself in that situation when I'm. So it's not a news story, but it's kind of this recurring thing I do for myself.
there is a show called The Boys on
Okay.
Amazon, and there is called The Seven, and it's a spin-off of superheroes, but they're the most
Okay.
kind of evil, narcissistic, created group of superheroes. It's kind of, if you watch, it's really based on government today. And there's a group trying to take him down, so there's a lot of similarities. But there's a character named Homelander, and he's part of the Seven. So it's fun. It's a fun, grotesque show. But now you talked about running. You talked about just being active and exercising being hard. I actually had someone on yesterday on who's a triathlete coach,
Yeah.
and he talked about he's in his 50s. He talks about, it's not as easy as it used to be. We talked about PRs not being the same as what they were 20 years ago. So he said we reset the PR time to our new age group. And so what it was in my 20s and 30s is not going to be the same in my 40s. So what's running like today for you?
So
Or
I'm in that
any
same.
of them? Many of them, yes.
Yeah. No, I'm actually in that same boat because I'm in my 50s
Hmm.
and it's a real hard knock to realize you're not as fast as you were when you were in your 20s. You feel like you're 20,
Hmm.
like, mentally, but your body just doesn't perform well. But for me, I surround myself with people who are about my age and they're winning races. These
Hmm.
women are just insanely amazing. I just look at them and I'm inspired by them. Um, and the really nice thing is that I can do well, what I think might be a slow pace. And all they do is congratulate me, tell me how great I am, what I'm doing, how proud they are of me. I could just finish the race and be in, the back half. And they're like, you finished. Do you know how
Yeah.
amazing that is? People our age don't even get off the couch. So for me, surrounding myself with like-minded people just really jazzes me. And I think
Hmm.
that's what really keeps me working out because I want to do things where I'm with them and I can sort of keep up with them.
Yeah, like the conversation was in here in a marathon. It's like the times are different. Like, regardless, at the end of the day, 26.2 miles is 26.2 miles. If it's an hour 59 minutes like the guy did, and was that in London? That's insanity. How in the hell? Whatever. Or you do it in 8 hours or whatever the cutoff time is, you still did it. And slow, fast, it's the fact you get up and do it. I know we've had conversations like you go back and forth, like, do I do this today? Do I not do it today? It's like I have those days too. It's like I get up, I don't want to
Yeah.
do this. I've started to train again, and it's like I get motivated and then you get injured and then something happens and you get bummed and then
Yep.
things don't work well. The other day I was running, what is today? The 7th of May. It was yesterday because it was post Cinco de Mayo. So I had really heavy Cinco de Mayo legs. I just said it was a bad run. I know exactly why the run was bad,
Yep.
but I still did it. And
Well,
it
that's the
was,
thing. You did it. You did it. Like when I did the half Ironman, my
hmm.
coach, who is just a few years younger than me and also did the race with me that
Hmm.
day and finished hours before me because she's a superstar. She was training me to survive the race, to be
Hmm.
able to finish. So I ended up doing the Jones Beach. It's called a 70.3. It was during a tropical storm we had 3 years ago.
Wicked.
It was the weather was so bad that they actually shortened the swim a little bit because it was like a washing machine.
Yeah, rip currents
And
too,
once they
probably.
shortened the swim, I knew I'd be fine because it was over a little over half a mile, but I knew I'd be able to complete it. And I mean, but we were, 4,000 people entered,
Hmm.
2228 finished. I was 22:12 and
Hey.
I did it. And I was like, so many people either wiped out or I, even as I was walking to what's the transition area to set up, I saw people leaving. People
Mhm.
that I knew were athletes. They're like, I'm not racing in this. It's too dangerous. And so for me, I will tell you those last 2 miles of the 13.1 mile run, which was just me on Jones Beach, nobody
Mhm.
around. I had the beach on one side. I was freezing. I couldn't even
Yeah.
cry. I had no tears. I was a mess. And I knew I was going to crawl to that finish line and finish that race.
I mean, you put the
So
work in, so you just do it, right? And that's part of being a
exactly. I
badass.
had trained for 7 months. There was no
Yes.
way I was not finishing this race.
It reminds me when I ran the Marine Corps marathon, and it was probably last one I did before I had like knee surgery, and then I like hung it up for a while. And I remember it was during Hurricane Sandy, right?
Oh,
So,
wow.
but it wasn't happening. But during the race, you like you see the shore, the coast, right? You see the storm out there.
Yes.
I'm like, are we really gonna do this? Because there's a hurricane out there, and we still did it.
Yeah.
And I remember during George Washington, I think I've told this story before. During the at GW, I think the students were handing out beer, and I'm already walking, right? I'm waving the white flag. I'm still gonna finish this thing, but I figured, hey, I'm walking. Why not? So
Why not?
it was a light beer. So I finished it. Another funny marathon story. So my sister, right? She said, "Happy birthday! I signed you up for the Kansas City Marathon." I'm like, well, why the hell did you do that? I'm not training for a marathon.
Gosh.
Yeah, I was training for a relay with my group at the
Oh
time.
my goodness.
And she goes, "This is my first, and I want you to run it with me." It's like, I'm not going to run it with you. She's like, "Why? I want to run it
Run
with
my
you."
race.
It's like, but you signed me up without asking. One, two. I go, second, I want to PR the course because I've
Okay.
run it before and I want to do this. And I go, secondly, I told her, I go, sis, this is your race. If I run with you, my brain's going to go out because I want to PR my time for
Right.
that course. I go, I want you to run your race. And she did, and she told me at the end, she goes, I met a lot of great people, a
Yeah.
lot of great people who were on the same boat. And I go, she enjoyed it. And I was worried if I ran with her, I would have gone too fast because my inclination would
Mhm.
have been to, I'm signing up, we're going. And to slow down, the pace might have been too fast. She might have burned out. She might have just not enjoyed it. But she came up to me and it was the best experience she ever had. She never did another one, but still. It was
I
hers.
do that with my run club. I will run out with them.
Hmm.
My run club are fast. The other night I ran with them. They were doing a 9:54, which for me is flying.
Hmm.
And I kept up with them for about 1.25 miles. And then I was like slowly drifting back, put my music up higher, and I did the rest of my pace. I just go out too fast with them because I want to be a little social.
Of
And
course.
then I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying.
Oh, yeah. I could have lots of running stories of jokes and humor from my old crew. I had a guy who was a comedian. He would tell jokes at like mile 20. I'm like, you just stop making us laugh, please. Really, it hurts. Another bad story talking about going out too fast. During my training, at one point, I signed up for a charity 5K. So what we'd always would do, we do half our long run, and then we show up to run the race as
Right.
quality miles, and then we leave and finish our long run, right? We had no idea to win it. And I remember
Yeah.
I signed up for this thing and I was running and I was like, I don't do 5Ks. When I was running for marathons, I just did not do 5Ks. And I signed up and
Wow.
I was like sprinting and I'm like in third or fourth. And someone goes, do you realize those two people in front, they actually run for the university track team? I'm like,
Wow.
so I'm like, let's just pull back a little bit because I'm going to throw up here in a second. And they just cruising, no problem for them. And
You were keeping up.
I was, and I'm dying here because I'm going to lose my lunch because I do not run that pace. And like,
Right.
what is wrong? You know. But now my new thing is now when I run, speaking of beach chair chats, I cold soak in the ocean. It's now getting a little bit
Mhm.
warmer.
Beautiful.
I would do it, but I'd come out like pink legged and everything else. It was awful. Um, but we're coming up on time here, and but Elise, it's been wonderful having you on. I'm glad you finally decided to take the chance with this. I think you're episode 20, maybe six. I was hoping it'd be
Wow.
25. And so, but it's been a pleasure having you on today. And I hope you enjoyed the time here. And I look forward to that book when it's all done. So I might have to, I'll
Thank
post them up
you.
on here. I might actually have to buy it. So my reading thing, I'll have to purchase one of those books.
Thank you so much. This was fun.